Hi, this is Nick from People Power Press, and today I'm just going to walk you through the operation of the FLEX1000 button maker. The FLEX1000's a great machine in that it offers you the ability to make multiple size buttons with a single machine just by changing out the die sets. A lot of casual button makers would like to make a variety of sizes but can't necessarily justify the expense of a variety of machines if they're just making a few hundred buttons a year. So I'm just going to walk you through how to make a button. We're just going to demonstrate in the 2 1/4 size. The mechanism's the same in any other die set you add on, and I'll just go through some of the common problems people run into. So we're going to start with cutting out our art. The machine comes with a rotary cutter in each size, and this isn't necessarily that intuitive. It seems really simple, but the thing about the rotary cutter is as you go down, it's going to have a tendency to shift or tilt. So the best way to operate the cutter here is just to line up the inside the cut line of your artwork. This artwork's been set up on templates. There's lots of templates online for how to do your artwork. Just line it up with the inside ring of the cutter and then hold the cutter in place with your offhand. Push it down. Shouldn't take that much force, but you just want to keep it all the way down and go around a few times so it cuts out the artwork cleanly, just like that. Yeah, a lot of people find this cutter difficult to use, but if you just hold it in place and go around a few times, it should be fine. The thing is, if your hand's not there, it's going to shift, and also you might end up putting too much force on the cutter and you could damage or break this cutter. But there you go, we have a couple pieces of artwork cut out. Now I'm going to show you how to use the button maker. So it's unlike most button makers. Most button makers will have a fixed upper die that will shift between two positions when pressing the shell and pressing the pin back. Generally speaking, it needs a deeper press to press the pin back of a button than it does the shell. So most button makers, when they swivel or slide side by side, will shift an upper die between two positions. This doesn't have a fixed upper die, which is part of how it works as an interchangeable machine. Instead, it has a upper die that you move between the shallower groove for the shell and the deeper groove for the pin back. And so it has two different positions, and this is where I think a lot of people get confused with this machine. Okay, so the positioning ring will go over the die when pressing, and it has this position where it's going to press the shell, and this position where it's going to press the pin back. And the way you can remember that is just this is going to press shallower and this is going to press deeper. So this will be the shell, this will be the pin back. And if you keep that straight, I think you should have no trouble with this machine. The actual base of the machine, again, there's a shallower groove for the shell and a deeper groove for the pin back. So you're going to put your shell into the shallower groove, your artwork on top, and a piece of mylar on top of that. And then again, in that first position, the shallower press, we're going to put the positioning ring and upper die on top of that die set. And then it takes a reasonable firm press. The shell, you can really feel sort of slotting into that positioning ring. So I think most people find that simple enough. When you go to do the pin back, it doesn't quite have that same feeling. You kind of have to get a feel for when the button's pressing together. So again, we're going to do this time in the position for the deeper press. Now our shell and artwork is already up there. We're going to press the back of the button. And I think people get confused about which position the die should be in. And so when they go to do this press, maybe they get nervous and they struggle to give this enough force. So I'll usually just sort of grip the machine, and it takes a reasonable amount of pressure. Once you've done a few, you'll start to feel the button sealing. Yeah, so that made a perfectly good button. I'll show you now what I think is probably the most common problem when pressing. As I say, you can really feel it locking into place when you do the first press, the shell, not so much on the pin back. And I think the machine is just fiddly enough that people get confused about what should be where, and then when they get to this final step, they end up just doing this too lightly. Like if I just casually press that down, yeah, the button hasn't sealed together, and this shell has already sort of been deformed when it pressed into the upper die, so that probably won't work as a shell. So just a reasonable amount of pressure in that second press to get the button to seal. Doesn't take an excessive amount of force, but just enough to get these two parts to lock together. After you've done a few, you'll start to get a feel for how the button maker is working, and should have no issues. So a simple enough machine, but one that people get confused on, and as I say, offers great value in that you can make a variety of button sizes. The die set is just held in place with a cotter pin. You can snap that off and replace it with a different size. That should be pretty intuitive. If you put it in the wrong way, it won't swivel into place. There are just two stops there where the machine should go, and then you can, if you're going to be working in this other size for a while, you can slot this cotter pin back on. Doesn't really affect the functioning of the machine, so if you're just going to make a few of the higher size, you can leave the cotter pin off and then swap it out back to that other size. And that's pretty much all there is to it. A simple enough machine, but as I say, where most people go wrong, just not quite enough force on the second press, and people find this counterintuitive. Keep that rotary cutter firmly in place with your offhand, and you should be fine with the FLEX1000. Thanks very much.